Hi Strong Mom Society, Coach Joni here. So I'm going to give you a workout to start to mobilize your C-section scar and if you have a shelf forming above that scar. Disclaimer, this workout is only for an incision that is completely healed. You don't want any redness, swelling, any kind of scabbing. You want that incision to be clean and you've had your doctor's approval to continue working out with that C-section scar. The other thing that I don't want to promise is that working with these moves to help mobilize the shelf and the scar, I don't want you to think that this is a fix for that shelf. There are so many factors that go into the formation of that C-section shelf. This is one of the things that you can do to help to address it. It's not the only thing to do. And one of the other additional things that I want you to think about doing, in addition to mobilizing the scar, stretching, pulling, just getting a lot of movement and fluidity through that area of your body, is doing some either self or professional scar massage or myofascial release. I'm gonna start this workout with a tennis ball to help do some of that self-massage. You don't need a ball for this. If you've got one, great. This could be any kind of a ball, kid's ball, yoga ball, anything like that. Or you can just use your fingertips, but keep all of that in mind as we go through this. So let's get started. I've got water, I've got a ball, and that's really all you need. I want you to come down to your back, and I want you to take that ball or your fingertips, and I want you to just find that area of the scar, and we're just gonna spend about a minute here just massaging into this area. So if you don't have a ball, you just take your fingers and you can kind of go in a little circle here. I'm circling that ball around all the way from right to left and back. Again on the scar. Then you're gonna switch this movement and you're gonna roll up and down. So you can also do this with your fingertips. If anything, the fingertips go a little bit deeper. So it really just depends on your level of comfort with this, how deep you're able to go, and then go back and forth, right and left, getting through that scar. I want you to go a little bit above the scar and do some tight little circles above it, reverse the direction, reverse the circle, and then go up below the scar and do the same thing, little circles above and below it. And then what I want you to do with either fingertips pulling or fingertips at the bottom, ball at the top, you're just gonna press down below the scar and above the scar, and I want you to drag that skin up the front of the body. So we're just trying to break up any scar tissue. Do the same thing, hold the scar above and press or swipe down away from the scar. And then I want you to go on the diagonals. I want you to hit a diagonal line. So you're gonna hold the skin taut at the bottom and then just swipe and pull. Press and pull, press and pull. Other side, press down, pull, 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 and then kind of just give it a nice little massage through the center here again. Awesome. So I recommend doing this for a few minutes every single day, maybe when you get up in the morning, before you go to bed at night, when you're in the shower, just to start to break up that scar tissue. Again, I want you to head into your core breathing belly pump. Now, the focus on this breath is to send air all the way down to the scar. So as you inhale, I'm gonna let you do a little bit of a belly distension because I want you to feel that scar rise. And then as you exhale, lift up to the pelvic floor. See if you can pull pelvic floor up and in, and then get some mobility or some muscle activation from hip bone to hip bone, pulling that scar in nice and tight. So inhale, relax the pelvic floor, feel a little bit of a rise through that lower belly, and then exhale, close and lift, stopping the flow of urine, stopping the flow of gas, lifting up and in, and then even use your fingertips. If you're having a hard time getting movement through this lower belly, take your hands, right, left hip bones, and then just swipe across the front of the body. Inhale, fill, relax the pelvic floor, and then exhale, feel that activation in the pelvic floor and lower abdominals. One last time, inhale, fill, Feel that expansion, and then exhale, pelvic floor first. Try to get those lower abdominals to fire. From here, we're gonna use that exhale to go into a tuck, and an inhale, untuck. So we're just mobilizing the bottom of the pelvis, or the pelvis. We're trying to keep the ribs from popping here, so I want you to keep your ribs nice and quiet. The other thing I want you to focus on is not squeezing your glutes to get that tuck on. I want you to think of pressing the small of your back into the floor, curling your pubic bone up towards your nose, finding a nice deep lower abdominal scoop, and then on the inhale, you kind of stretch the front of that scar as you go into that tilt. Exhale, tuck. Inhale, tilt. Exhale, small of the back into the floor, scoop. You might even feel a little bit of pulling through the scar, that's okay. Inhale, tilt, and then one more time, exhale, tuck, and inhale, tilt. And then I want you to take what's called a pelvic clock. If your 12 o'clock is up by your belly button, 6 o'clock is at your pubic bone, and then your hip bones are 3 and 9. I want you to go from 12 to 3 to 6 to 9 around in a circle. So we're, again, just putting some movement into the pelvis here. And you can think of the scar just like stretching and pulling in all of these different directions, and then go the other direction. We're gonna go 12, 9, 6, and 12, 9, 6, and 3, back around again. Good, and then kind of just give your knees a little windshield wiper here from right to left. Again, you might feel a little bit of a pull. That's completely okay. That's actually what we want to do. If this pulling feels too intense, you can always add a little baby oil or some lotion to this part of the skin to help keep it moist and help it mobilize a little bit. But we're just trying to get lots of flexibility, mobility, fluid. You're gonna roll over to your side, and I want you to come onto one shoulder and bring your arms in front of you. And what we're gonna do is take a windmill up and around. I'm gonna move this out of the way. So you're gonna sweep that arm up over your head, and then I want you to open up the chest, go into this spiral position in the body. So you feel a little pull through the scar here. Sweep your arm down and back to center. So we're gonna take this a few times, and I want you to just go on your own timing. You're also gonna feel some, a little bit of stretch here through this open shoulder. We're getting some mobility through the thoracic spine here. You can think about using your belly pump in any part of this movement. Really just focus on using that deep diaphragmatic breath. And then I want you to reverse the direction. You're gonna go back, around, overhead. And open the chest, feel that twist come from the lower body. And stack hips and shoulders again. One more time in this direction. And stack. From here, we're gonna stay on the same side. I want you to prop your elbow under your forearm underneath you. Make sure that elbow is right underneath your shoulder girdle. Put your hand on your belly, and I want you to do a belly pump. So practice lifting the pelvic floor, getting on that muscle activation from hip bone to hip bone. On your exhale, you're strongest on your exhale, I want you to lift up, find that scap connection, so armpit to hip, feeling that lower bottom inside corner of the right shoulder blade really pressing down so your shoulder's not in your ear. Extend that arm up, and then we're gonna take a thread the needle through, inhale up again. So I'm wrapping those deep core muscles on this rotation, and I'm always thinking about trying to get as much movement through that lower belly area as possible, as much as I can move the scar. So thinking about bending, stretching, twisting, all of these movements helping with that mobility. And then I'm gonna come down, and we're gonna go over to the other side with those windmills. So come down to your side, extend those arms out in front of you. Take a nice big inhale to prep, and then exhale, sweep that arm open. And back to center, stack your shoulders and hips. We're gonna open, feel that openness in the chest, that twist coming from the lower body. Sweep that arm down, around, and stack. One more time this direction. Open, down, around, and stack, and then reverse the direction. Take your arm down, open up, feel that twist from the lower Abdominals stack, down, open, and stack. And last time, down the wall here, open, and stack. Propping up onto the shoulder girdle on that side. Forearm is down. We're gonna try to take as much pressure out of the upper traps as possible by anchoring armpit down to hip, making sure that your shoulder's right on top of that elbow. Take a nice deep belly pump, pelvic floor lifts first, find hip bone to hip bone, that scap connection is on. We're trying to work that left oblique here if your left arm is down. Lift up, extend the arm. This is my breath in. My breath out is those lower abdominals scooping, pelvic floor lifting. Inhale, reset. Exhale, scoop. Thread that needle through. Think about how the scar is twisting and mobilizing here. I'm gonna take 2 more. Inhale up, and last one. And bring it down. We're gonna move down to our bellies. And I want you to stack your hands one on top of the other and just bring your forehead down to the back of your hands. So we're gonna start with the lower belly, the lower body. As you exhale, I want you to close and lift the pelvic floor. Think of scooping that scar or your lower abdominals up off the floor. Release your feet straight down in front of you. And then as I'm breathing out and I'm going into that full core activation, I'm pressing the front of both hips straight down. I'm thinking of equal weight in my right and left halves. Extend the leg and lift up. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, think of lengthening that leg. It's gonna get longer before you lift. The pelvic floor is lifting. The lower abdominals are scooping in and up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, extend to lift. Inhale, lower. The other thing I'm thinking about is dropping those scaps down my back. Exhale, extend, lift, scoop, pelvic floor, lower abs. Inhale, lower. We're gonna take 1 more on each side. Exhale, lift. Inhale, feel that belly drop down into the floor. Exhale, pelvic floor lifts, belly scoops off the floor. And lower. And then we're going to take the upper body with your hands continued to stay stacked. You're going to continue to keep them stacked on one another, forehead down. You're going to drop those shoulder blades down your back like crazy. Scoop the pelvic floor, lift and lower. Inhale, feel that release all the way down into the bottom of the pelvis. Belly extends down into the floor. Exhale, pelvic floor, hip bone to hip bone scoops. Shoulders drop down to lift the upper body. Inhale, fill. Exhale, I'm trying to scoop that scar up off the floor. 2 more times. Inhale, fill. Pressing that scar down into the floor. Exhale, lifting the pelvic floor, scooping the scar up and in. And last one. Inhale, fill. Exhale, pelvic floor, scoop the scar, drop the scaps down, and lower. From here, we're gonna go into a cobra stretch. So you're just gonna press those forearms down into the floor, and you might feel that stretch in that lower abdominal scar right here. Try to drop your shoulders away from your ears. Find a little bit of scap activation. Make sure you're not holding any tension in your neck, and give your head a little rock from side to side. And bring yourself down. Take a little rest. You can turn your head to one side. And then we're gonna do the other side. We're gonna do a second set. Come up, press those shoulders down. Feel that stretch coming up the front of the body. Few breaths here. Shoulders are pressing down away from the ears. And bring yourself down. Turn your head to the other side this time to recover. Nice big breath in. And coming up out of that onto all fours. If you need, grab yourself a sip of water. That upper lower body work gets me every time. And then from an all fours position, we're gonna try to mobilize the middle of the back or your thoracic spine. by doing an exercise that's called T-spine. So from here, in order to keep strain off your wrists, you want to make sure that your shoulders are on top of your wrists, not ahead or behind them. And then the other thing that's going to help with any kind of wrist pain is really activating your scaps, feeling like the middle of your back is supporting you, not shoulders. As soon as you get up here, you start to put more pressure down on the wrists. If that's all too much, you can also come up onto fists or put your hand up on a block. What we're going to do is bring one hand behind the head. You're going to inhale as you take that rotation up, and then exhale. I want you to just rotate. Inhale up, exhale, curve. So we kind of did another version of this when we were up on the side lift, and we did thread the needle. So again, I'm moving my hips a lot more than a traditional T-spine would do, but I want you to think about mobilizing through that scar, almost like the rings of a barber pole, from the bottom of the spine all the way up to the top. Kind of rocking forward, feeling that stretch, and then exhale under. And then we're gonna take it over to the other side. Find that scap activation, hand behind the head. I'm gonna inhale up, exhale, curl. Inhale up, exhale, curl. I'm trying to move my hips a little bit here. I'm imagining those ribbons up the pole from the bottom of the pelvic floor all the way up to my elbow here. And we're gonna take one more and curl. Good. Sit back in child's pose. Take a nice big breath in here. Exhale, let go. I want you to shift your hips over to the left, walk your hands over to the right. Now as you head into your release breath here, I want you to try to find some space between the ribs on the left. As you inhale, exhale. And then sit over into the other hip, sitting over to the right. Walk your hands to the left, bring your forehead down. And on this breath, try to breathe into the spaces in between your right ribs. Good. And then bring yourself up. Okay, we are gonna come all the way up to standing. We're gonna get our heart rates up a little bit and go into a little more rotation. So first thing we're gonna do is just go back into that tuck and that tilt. So hands on your hips, feel that tuck or that pull up the front of the body, and then inhale, think of stretching, pubic bone down between your legs, tailbone up to the sky. Exhale, curl. Inhale, release. Think of the front of the ribs being closed. Back and scaps are active here. Exhale, inhale, and last one. Exhale and inhale. Come back to center. I want you to just take some reaches from side to side. And I want you to think of twisting from your lower abdominals. So twist, you can even internally rotate that hip and twist. This is gonna start to get your heart rate up a little bit. And I want you to really think of twisting from the lower body all the way up into the sides of the obliques. So I'm feeling that little bit of lower abdominal wrap to support that rotation. That's also gonna get this oblique on, and it's gonna bring a lot of activity to these lower abs. The other thing that you want to think about is releasing that lower abdominal activation when you breathe in, because we don't want to just hold it in and hug it in. That's not going to do anything to train the muscles or get mobility through this. It's just going to tighten and hold and eventually break down. So you want things to be pumping in and out and going through their full range of motion. Now I'm going to add a little squat, reach, squat, reach, squat, reach. I'm getting those sits bones out and back behind me. Nice deep crease in the hips. 2 more. Reach. And last one. Take a nice deep breath. Think about relaxing your pelvic floor. You can close your eyes. Bring one hand to the heart, one to the lower belly. Trying to slow down that breathing. Return to that deep diaphragmatic breath. Feel that extra blood flow up here. That's a great thing. Then hands behind the head. I don't want this to get into your shoulders. So if this feels like it's too much with your arms up high, you can always drop them down to hold them on your shoulders instead. But I want you to find that support from the very center of your back, your scaps. And we're just gonna march and rotate. Same thing. This is my inhale. I'm trying to release any tension in the lower belly. And then I'm just thinking of, you know, a zipper from the back end of the pelvic floor up the front, turning on those obliques for that rotation. Getting lots of lower belly movement. Feeling that twist and that pull through the scar. And then if you want to pick these up a little bit, focus a little less on one breath per rep. You can kind of just find some rhythm or some flow with your breath. I'm going to go for about 10 more seconds here. Again, trying to keep that tension out of the shoulders. Drop it down here if you need to. 3, 2, and 1. Hands on your hips, nice, big juicy circles around. Pushing up through the front of the body, trying to get really into the side of the hips. Take those sits bones all the way to the back wall, and then reverse, go the other way. And around. 2 more. And last one. And back to center. Awesome job. Grab yourself a sip of water. If you've got a few extra minutes, grab that ball or come back down to your back, or even do it standing just to massage through the scar again. Basically try to just be mobilizing, pushing, pulling, stretching, you know, getting into breaking up that scar tissue anytime you think about it throughout the day. And, you know, seek out pelvic floor therapy to help with this. Pelvic floor therapies can help, therapists can help with scar tissue. A massage therapist that specializes in myofascial release can help. Acupuncture, they can acupuncture the scar, that self-massage, and you will be well on your way to addressing that shelf. Great job, guys.